when everybody puts the stats out and it's like, oh, he had 2 touchdowns and 1 pick and 2 drop picks, and everybody screams and drop picks don't count. The hell they don't in practice and for evaluation.
Absolutely.
They absolutely. Now, they don't if you're an established starter in the context of a season and you're winning or losing and there's other bigger things that are going to be evaluated. But I think that's the other misnomer, or where people get it, fans get things twisted sometimes, is that the 49ers are not evaluating Trey Lance and Sam Darnold right now as to who the backup is going to be based on the same rubric that you would evaluate a starting quarterback in the regular season of a team that's like, it's not only result oriented.
No, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't happen on Twitter. I don't think Kyle and John go to Twitter each night. Well, look, did you see what Trey Lance did in practice today?
Like, the drop picks matter.
They do. There is actually a stat for this now. They're called turnover-worthy plays. Turnover-worthy plays. Trey had 2 of them yesterday that were not turnovers.
Right.
But they were turnover-worthy plays.
And some quarterbacks get lucky.
Yes.
And some quarterbacks get lucky one year and don't get lucky. It's just like, some baseball teams get lucky one year and don't the next.
I mean, it's actually one thing, if you want to look broadly at the 49ers, this would be something that I would talk about that might lessen the optimism for the year. Like last year, the 49ers had a massive turnover ratio, and turnovers can be quirky. Did you drop the pick? Did you hold on to it? Did you get a pick that bounced off of somebody's face mask and bounced into your hands? The Brandon Allen thing. If you just went to the box score and you're like, oh gosh, Brandon Allen's first pass got picked. Yeah, except it was a 25-yard dart that hit his receiver right in the hands.
Right. That's
a perfect throw.
Yeah, that's the opposite
that's
of what happened.
That's a non-turnover-worthy play that turned over. So Brandon Allen gets a pick. Shouldn't have been a pick. That was all over Hill. So, anyway, just something to keep in mind. You can play with it any way you want. And unfortunately, I feel like 49er discussion this year has turned into too much of that. Like, it's Fox News and CNN, and everybody grabs whichever stats sort of like fit their narrative and then scream about them in the streets.
Right. Like, drop picks at practice right now don't matter for Brock Purdy because Brock Purdy's
the starting
quarterback.
Right.
They do matter for Trey Lance and Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen. If you want to throw him in, like that stuff matters for them. And but I just want people to understand, and I'm passionate about this on a few different levels today. I just want people to understand that the grading scale is different right now for those two.
As it should be. You're absolutely right.
Like this is not.
Brock's not competing for anything. Brock is getting ready for the season.
Right.
Sam Darnold and Trey Lance and Brandon Allen are competing for something.
Brock Purdy was 48% and had a pick, and 2 more should have been picks. Doesn't matter.
Cool beans.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Trey Lance does that, and Darnold doesn't, or Darnold does it and Trey doesn't. That's the difference between who's winning the backup job and who's not.
And by the way, that is fair. It's totally fair because Brock Purdy's the starting quarterback. So, all the comments that get thrown out, if Trey Lance, like I saw this one yesterday. Oh my gosh, if Brock Purdy went 10 of 15 with a quarterback rating of 111
and a touchdown,
we'd have set a parade. We would have done Brock Purdy Day in the city. Give him the keys to the city. First of all, no, we wouldn't. If you are one of the people who's been doing these kinds of conversations on radio shows, online, if you're doing the Trey Lance thing, if you're screaming about how life is unfair and how the 49ers have done him and the fan base a massive disservice by not jamming him into the starting role this year, if you're one of these people, yesterday was a loss, and it was a big one. And there's absolutely zero other way to talk about it. Now, I don't even try to get into that conversation. I'm not rooting against anybody who's got a Niner helmet. I never have, and I never will.
You're good at that. You're good at that.
But unless they give Chris Paul one, then I will.
Okay. That's funny.
No, but I'm not. If you got a helmet, man, you're on my team. I'm not rooting against anybody, but the stories around these 4 people playing quarterback this year are all different. And so this idea that we got to treat them all the same and everybody's got the same rules. No, one of them's the starter. The other 3 are not. 2 of them are competing for the second job. The other one is competing just to maybe be on the team. Right? One of them was drafted here. One of them wasn't. They're both number 3 overall. These are all parts. One of them has experience. One of them doesn't.
Right.
This all goes into every I think it goes into every play and every conversation that we have about any of them. But again, what would you do now about Trey Lance is the question we're playing with today. I think, JD, you and I are on the same page. If we were going to handicap this right now, today, which is all we've got, Brock Purdy's your starting quarterback. I'd put Sam Darnold as the 2. I would want Trey Lance on the team, and I would start him at the number 3.
Yeah, and it's also not decided today.
No.
It's not decided today. Yesterday wasn't good for Trey. I thought it was solid for Sam. I think sounds like I'm in the minority as far as my overall camp evaluation. Like I think Darnold has been slightly ahead in terms of consistency, and I'm viewing it under the lens of what does Kyle Shanahan want his backup quarterback to do?
Well,
and I feel like Darnold has done that more consistently than Trey, even though Trey's had a higher completion percentage, even though maybe Trey's had more flash plays.
Well, just because I know you also, I think you also started the conversation from a fair place, which is why you think that. You think Sam Darnold is slightly ahead because you walked into camp and said, okay, here are 2 humans. They're both quarterbacks. I want to see which one I see excel better for this particular job. Most people don't do that. Most people are coming in going, all ties go to Trey. And if it's not a tie and Sam's a little ahead, that goes to Trey too, because he's Trey, because he's ours, because he was drafted here, because of the excitement, because of all of those things. I don't think you do that when you go watch practice.
No, and I will say this in fairness, because I did go to the OTAs and the minicamp the OTA and minicamp practices that were open. They weren't all open, but the ones that were open I did go to because the Warriors were done at that point.
Yeah.
In other years they hadn't been done at that point, so I wasn't there. But this year I happened to be, and I thought Trey was the better quarterback in those sessions than Darnold, to the point where I thought, okay, you know what? And I think Trey is Trey. If you said going into camp, which started 3 weeks ago tomorrow, going into camp, would you put Trey ahead of Darnold? I would say, yeah, as the incumbent, I would put Trey ahead of Darnold. And based on what I saw in the OTAs and the minicamp, I'd put him maybe slightly ahead. But you're right. But I don't put a lot of stock in the OTA and minicamp. I wanted him even going into training camp.
Gosh, your comment. I can't remember the last time I put any stock into any of this crap. This is the most August I've ever been in my entire life.
Well, it usually doesn't matter.
Yeah, right, and I get it. I'm not saying it shouldn't be that way, but good Lord. Yeah. I mean, the nightly victory laps that happen based on things that people didn't even see, that they're reading about on social media that happened at a Santa Clara side facility is really kind of laughable. It really is. And so there's a lot of twisting and turning of stats and this person saw that, but that person saw it another way. Like, it's just like anything else in life, right? 2 people can look at the exact same event and come away with a very, very different perspective. Saw this a lot at joint practices. There were a couple of 49er reporters that were like, oh, this offensive lineman for the Niners just did like great job, beating the Raider. And the same play, the Raider reporter is like, the D-line is cooking, absolutely cooking the Niner offensive line. I'm like, I don't know who to agree with. I'm not there. So I just blow it off.
And look, in fairness, and I don't want to get into the whole debate over, I don't want to get into the whole content creator debate.
Oh, boy.
Spare me that.
Woof.
So I'm already like, if you want to just move on, we can just move on, and I'll just leave.
No.
I don't want to get into that necessarily, but there are, all due respect to everybody, and I said this on Twitter, all due respect to everybody's opinions, but there are people who, and I'm not singling anybody out, it's multiple people. There are people who have a really big following and a smaller following that they're trying to grow that know that Trey Lance moves the needle more than any other quarterback that the 49ers have. And Trey Lance is better for their business.
Yes.
And that's the rat on the and again, I root for all these people. It's not a question of any of that. Don't come down my road. But the people who are trying to make a living being a 49er content creator, Trey Lance makes it easier. Just like Steph Curry makes it easier, just like Kevin Durant made it even easier when he was with Steph Curry and the Warriors were embarrassing the rest of the league. So some of these people that are putting their numbers out and putting their takes out, there's a bias there. There is. There's a bias there toward Trey. That's just reality. Take it with a grain of salt.
I just let you cook.
Come at me.
No.
There was nothing offensive there.
No, you're spot freaking on. And by the way, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Our friends, thank you so much for doing everything you do.
And you know what? Follow everybody, read everybody, watch everybody. But know who you're watching.
Wow. And let me add this.
And also balance it out in your head. Like, don't take it as what has happened now. And I apologize. I'm going on that tangent.
Let you cook.
What happens now is a lot of fans identify with the content creator that they agree the most with, and then they start using that person's they're the real. They've got the real numbers. They've got the real info because it matches what they want the outcome to be, and they start throwing that back at the people who've legitimately covered the team for decades. That's all I got. Come at me. And again, I'm not taking shots at anybody. I want to make that clear.
You're taking shots at the system, and it is why I've referenced Fox News and CNN twice already today, because it is literally their business model. Let's scream loudly about something that we know our base will identify with, will fire them up. And so we all tune in to hear exactly what we want to hear. And it is, in my opinion, especially for people who work in media, it's a big problem in our world right now. And on a micro level, it has reached the 49ers. You're absolutely right. And I've watched people, this is all I would suggest to people. Know who, and there's nothing wrong with spitting your opinion on media platforms. It's what I do for a living. But you should know who is simply clicking on a camera and screaming versus people who are trying to share sourced reporting. I just use it as an example because he engages in it, and I've told him this probably more than but it's his platform. He can do whatever he wants. But Mike Silver lets it get. I don't know if he lets it get to him or not, but he responds a lot, and he blocks people and peace fingers, whatever. Go ahead. You're coming at someone who has no skin in the game. Right. He is simply he's trying to pass along to you what is actually being said and thought inside the 49er hallways. He's talking to people like Kyle Shanahan.
Sure.
And John Lynch and Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle. He's talking to assistant coaches. He's talking to people.
Understand the difference between reporting and conversation.
Right. So
because anybody can have whatever opinion they want. It's fair. And I'm all for discussion and, hey, you think this, and we can disagree. Like, we don't have to agree about everything.
No, that's fine.
Like that, but understand what's reporting versus
I just think
having your own opinion.
I think
having your own opinion on
people
something.
Get mad at this is a dynamic I think has happened. The 49ers have not been excited about what Trey Lance brought to the table. Reporters then pass that along. Reporters pass that along in a way that they see appropriate, and then said reporter becomes a poster for being a Trey hater.
Yeah, exactly.
All they're doing is telling you what the team thinks, and you're mad at the reporter. Right? Uncle Looney, I see you. You just said Mike Silver is a straight-up mouthpiece. I don't know. I think a mouthpiece is pretty freaking valuable. He's telling you what the organization thinks. He's telling you what they think. And you're blowing it off and calling him a hater. He's not a hater. He's got no skin in this fight.
925 on the Xfinity mobile text line. JD, you said Trey was special the first deep throw he completed in his rookie camp. Actually, that wasn't me.
Yeah, I know who it was.
Actually, that wasn't me.
We all know who it was. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, this is just a dynamic that I think is the key to why this whole thing has gotten uncomfortable for a lot of people, which is lame. The 49ers are a really good football team. We're about to start NFL season. It's the best time in sports. And if this spills into the regular season, whoever is involved in it, you all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Well, you know what's going to happen. Trey's going to cook Saturday against Denver. He's going to have a legitimately good game. And Monday, you're going to be back on with dibs, and it's going to be, Mark, you all over Trey last week. Stinks. Doesn't belong in the league. Now what?
Yeah, maybe I'll go back to Mexico.
Whereas the reality
it was
is,
nice.
you got to be open-minded to the fact that Darnold could be in the lead today and Trey could be in the lead a week from now.
You know what? Exactly. You know what else is involved here? This is all allowed to be different next week, and we're all allowed to have a different reaction then, because that's life. That's life. You all know what you saw yesterday. There's not a one of you. And I know. Everybody's got their receipts. And it's not an anger thing. I don't care what anybody's opinion is. Everybody's allowed to have it. Right? Guru came in here and he's like, I got to apologize to everyone. No, you don't.
No.
You feel what you feel. It's one of the things I love about Guru. Guru does a great job of staying in the damn moment. Wow. Thank you. So he freaks out about one thing one day. The next day, freak out about something else. Great. That's authenticity. That's what that is. So
I like that.
Next week, if Trey cooks, we'll come back on Monday and go, hey, what do we do now? But you all know what you saw yesterday. He looked like crap. What do you want to do? You want to get mad at other people with pens? He looked like crap. I hope he doesn't next time he plays. But he looked like crap. That's what he looked like yesterday. And I hate using that kind of, I don't know what it's going to be next week. I'm not killing his career. I'm not even killing Saturday. But yesterday, the young man looked awful. And I don't think anybody can disagree with me.
No.
So,
and that puts Darnold in the lead.
Right.
Because that's how, like,
he didn't look like crap.
You're strong. You have a strong, and that's the beauty of this, the beauty of conversation. You have a stronger opinion than I do on Trey yesterday. Like, I think he was bad. You've obviously stated, but it also isn't over.
No.
Like, it isn't over.
You're allowed a bad game.
Like, anybody coming down my road for saying Darnold's ahead right now, like, okay, well, he might, that doesn't mean it's over.
You got to stick with people sometimes.